Have you ever wondered how many lives cross paths with yours in a single night? How many stories climb into your car, sit in the back seat, and leave behind something you'll never be able to forget? My name is Michael. I've been driving a taxi in Portland for 7 years, and I can tell you one thing. The dead of night reveals what daylight hides. When the sun goes down and the streets empty out, when the traffic lights blink yellow and silence settles over the city, that's when people take off their masks. That's when the truth comes out. I've seen everything in that back seat. Drunks confessing secrets they'd never reveal sober. Couples ending 10-year relationships between one street corner and the next. People running away. People coming back. People lost, searching for a path that might not even exist. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for the night of March 15th. It was 2:37 a.m. I was parked at a gas station drinking reheated coffee, thinking about giving up and going home. The rain wouldn't stop. The streets glistened empty under the yellowish headlights. The red neon of a motel flickered on the other side of the avenue. That's when I saw her, running, barefoot, in a wedding dress. At first I thought I was seeing things, but then she knocked on my window so hard it startled me. And when she got into my cab, shaking, soaked, with the most desperate eyes I've ever seen in my life, I knew. This wouldn't be an ordinary ride. This would be the night that changed everything. For her, for me, and for dozens of people who didn't even know they were in danger. What happened over the next few hours made me question everything I thought I knew about courage, about justice, about what it truly means to help someone. This is the story of how a bride got into my cab crying and told me what the groom had done just minutes earlier. This is the story of how a simple taxi ride turned into a rescue mission, and how sometimes doing the right thing in the middle of the night can illuminate far more lives than you could ever imagine. Buckle up, because this trip, you won't forget. I've been driving a taxi in Portland for 7 years. I've seen everything in this city. Drunk people crying in the back seat, couples fighting in the middle of the night, people running away from problems I don't even want to know about. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for the night of March 15th. It was exactly 2:37 a.m. when I saw her. I was parked in front of a gas station on Burnside Street, drinking reheated coffee and thinking about giving up on that night. It had been raining since sundown. The streets were empty, shining under the yellowish headlights. The red neon of a motel flickered across the avenue, reflecting in the puddles like diluted blood. That's when she appeared, running, white dress, torn veil, barefoot. At first I thought I was seeing things, maybe exhaustion, maybe the old coffee. But then she knocked on my taxi window so hard it scared me. Please. Her voice came out muffled, desperate. Please let me in. I unlocked the doors. She practically threw herself into the back seat, slamming the door shut. She was drenched. The wedding dress, which must have once been beautiful, was muddy up to her knees. The veil hung crooked, ripped in several places. Her makeup had melted down her face, leaving dark streaks of mascara. But it was her eyes that got me. Eyes of someone who had just walked out of a nightmare. Where to? I asked, adjusting the rearview mirror to see her better. She didn't answer. She just shook, hugging herself, soaked and lost. Miss, I need to know where to take you. Just, her voice cracked. Just drive, please. It wasn't a normal request, but something in the way she said it, something in the desperation of that please, made me start the engine without questioning her. I began driving with no destination. Empty streets, blinking yellow lights, the city sleeping under the constant rain. The only sound was the windshield wiper cutting through water in a hypnotic, melancholic rhythm. I tried not to look at her, tried to respect the silence, but it was impossible not to notice. She was crying, not the loud, dramatic kind of crying. It was a silent, restrained cry, the kind that hurts more to watch because you know the person is trying to hold themselves together, trying not to completely fall apart. Her hands trembled so much she couldn't keep them still. Are you okay? I asked, knowing it was a stupid question. Of course she wasn't okay. She didn't answer. We crossed a bridge. The Willamette River stretched dark beneath us, the city lights reflecting on its surface like drowned stars. I kept going, entering a quiet residential neighborhood. Houses with lights off, well-kept gardens, normal lives, sleeping normal lives. And there, in my back seat, a shattered bride. "He locked me in," she suddenly said, so quietly I almost didn't hear it. My foot hesitated on the gas. "What?" She wiped her face with the back of her hand, but the tears kept falling. My fiancé, he locked me in." I didn't know what to say. Didn't know whether I should ask more, whether I should stop the car, whether I should call someone. So I did what I learned in these 7 years of late-night driving. I waited. Sometimes people just need someone who listens, someone who doesn't judge, someone who simply exists there for them. She took a deep breath, trying to control the crying. In the church bathroom, during the ceremony, my stomach twisted. "During the ceremony?" I repeated, unable to believe what I was hearing. She nodded, staring out the window, watching the city blur through rain and tears. "I found out something terrible. An hour before walking down the aisle, I confronted him, and her voice broke again. He locked me in, said I was being hysterical, that I needed to calm down." I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. "How long were you there?" 3 hours. 3 hours. I let the weight of that sink in. 3 hours locked inside, alone, on her own wedding day. "How did you get out?" "The janitor heard me. He was cleaning the church. He heard me screaming." She looked down at her own hands, scraped and bruised. "When he opened the door, everyone was already gone. Everyone. The guests, the family, the bridesmaids. They all thought I had run away, that I was the crazy bride who left the groom at the altar." Anger rose up my throat like fire. And him? He created the perfect story. Cold feet bride. The unstable woman who couldn't handle the pressure. She let out a bitter laugh. No one would believe me now. I looked at her in the rearview mirror. Really looked at her for the first time. She wasn't just a bride. She was a woman betrayed, humiliated, imprisoned, and now lost in the rain of a cold night. Something inside me cracked, and I knew at that exact moment that this wouldn't be an ordinary ride. This would be the night that changed everything. I drove a few more blocks in silence. The rain kept falling, turning Portland into a blurred, melancholic version of itself. I didn't know where to go. She hadn't given me an address, but somehow it felt like it didn't matter. Sometimes people just need to keep moving, running from something, going nowhere. "My name is Sarah," she said suddenly, breaking the silence. I looked at her through the rearview mirror. "Michael," I replied. "Nice to meet you, Sarah. Sorry about the circumstances." She let out a weak, humorless laugh. "Yeah? Not exactly how I imagined tonight." I stopped at a red light. The street was completely empty, just us, the rain, and the traffic light swaying slightly in the wind. "Do you want to tell me what happened?" I asked gently. "You don't have to if you don't want to. But sometimes it helps." Sarah stayed quiet for a long moment. Then she began. "My mother has Alzheimer's," she said, her voice low and tired. "Advanced. She barely recognizes me now. 2 years ago I placed her in a specialized care home. It's expensive, really expensive, but it's the best place for her." I nodded, continuing to drive slowly. "My fiancé, ex-fiancé, Marcus, he offered to help. Said he understood finances, that he could take care of my mother's payments, organize the bills for the care home, all that. I was so overwhelmed with work, with the wedding, with everything." She paused to wipe away more tears. I trusted him. My stomach tightened. I already knew where this was going. "This morning, the care home administrator called me," Sarah continued, her voice trembling. "She said I had 3 months of unpaid bills, that if I didn't make the payments by next week, they'd have to remove my mother." She covered her face with her hands. I didn't understand. I had money. My mother had money. She sold her house after the diagnosis and saved everything for this exact purpose. How could it be overdue? The light turned green. I drove on, passing through a deserted industrial area. Empty warehouses, rusted fences, the kind of place that feels even more desolate at night. I asked the administrator to double-check. She emailed me the statements, and that's when I saw it. Sarah took a deep breath, as if gathering strength to say it out loud. Transfers. Dozens of them. Always round numbers. 5,000, 10,000, 3,000. All authorized by the power of attorney I gave Marcus. All going to an account I didn't recognize. Son of a bitch, slipped out of my mouth before I could stop it. Exactly, she said, a cold anger in her voice. He was stealing from my mother, a 73-year-old woman who barely knows where she is, who trusted him, who called him her dear son-in-law. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. What did you do? I went to the church. He was there, getting ready, laughing with the groomsmen, happy, like nothing was wrong. Sarah's voice hardened. I asked to speak to him privately, took him to the back, near the bathroom, showed him the statements on my phone, asked him what they were. And him? Sarah let out a bitter laugh. He didn't even try to deny it. You know what he said? Sarah, we'll talk about this after the wedding. You're stressed. Till like I was a child throwing a tantrum. I felt the anger boiling inside me. I told him I wasn't marrying him, that I was canceling everything right there, that I was calling the police. She paused, her voice breaking again. That's when he changed. His face, it went cold, calculating. He shoved me into the bathroom and locked the door from the outside. He shoved you? Yes, and locked it. Said I was hysterical, that I was out of control, that I needed to calm down before I did something I'd regret. My God. I banged on the door, screamed, pounded until my hands bled. Sarah held up her bruised knuckles. No one heard me. The music was loud outside. Everyone thought I was getting ready, waiting for me to show up. How long? 3 hours. 3 hours locked in that tiny bathroom. No window, just me, the wedding dress, and the despair. She looked out the window, seeing her own distorted reflection in the wet glass. When the janitor finally heard me and opened the door, the church was empty. Everyone had left. Marcus told the guests I had panicked and run away, that he was so disappointed, so hurt. Sarah let out a sound between a laugh and a sob, and everyone believed him. Of course they did. He's so charming, so convincing. I pulled the car over onto the shoulder. I needed to really look at her. I turned in my seat. Sarah, do you still have those transfers? The statements? She nodded. It's all on my phone. Then you have proof. Real proof. But who's going to believe me now? She asked, her voice breaking. The crazy bride who abandoned her own wedding? The hysterical woman her own fiancé had to calm down? I looked into her eyes. Tired, wounded eyes, but still fighting. I believe you, I said. And it was true. Every single word. Sarah began to cry again. But this time, it felt different. Like something inside her had loosened. Like for the first time on that horrible night, someone had actually seen her. Thank you, she whispered. I turned back to the wheel and started the engine. Now tell me something, Sarah. What? Where does that son of a bitch live? Sarah looked at me through the rear-view mirror, her eyes wide. What? His address, I repeated, keeping my voice calm. Where does this guy live? She shook her head quickly. No. I don't want trouble. It's over. I just want to forget this night. I want to take a shower, sleep, and wake up wishing it was all just a nightmare. I turned off the engine. Silence returned. Just the rain tapping on the roof of the taxi. Steady, almost comforting. Sarah, look at me. She hesitated, but finally turned her face toward me. You're not going to forget this night, I said slowly. As much as you want to, as much as you try. This is going to stay with you. You're going to wake up tomorrow and the next day and a month from now, and it'll still be there. The anger, the humiliation, the injustice. She lowered her gaze. I know, but what can I do? Call the police? They'll want proof. They'll investigate. It will take months. And meanwhile, he'll be free, telling his version of the story, making everyone believe I'm crazy. You're right, I agreed. It will be hard. It will take time. But do you know what will be worse? She looked at me, waiting, doing nothing. Sarah closed her eyes. I'm scared. I know. And it's okay to be scared. I paused. But you're also angry. And that anger? It's legitimate. It's justified. And if you let it pass, if you let this guy walk away clean, you're going to carry this forever. She stayed silent. I knew I was being tough. But sometimes people need the raw truth. Not the softened version. Not the, it'll be okay. The real truth. I took a deep breath. It was time to tell her. I had a sister, I began, staring at the rain outside. 6 years younger than me. Emily. She was bright, funny, full of life. When she was 22, she met a guy. Handsome, charming, successful, just like your Marcus. Sarah leaned forward, listening intently. At first, everything was perfect. He treated her like a princess. Flowers, dinners, trips. My family loved him. I loved him. My voice grew heavier. Then, slowly, things changed. He started isolating her. Said her friends were a bad influence. That her family didn't understand their relationship. That only he truly cared about her. I paused, letting the weight of it settle. Emily started drifting away. Stopped answering calls. Stopped showing up at Sunday lunches. When we managed to talk to her, she always had an excuse. Work, tiredness, commitments with him. And you? Sarah asked softly. I believed him, I admitted, tasting the bitterness of that truth. When my mom said she was worried, I told her it was in her head, that Emily was happy, that she was just living her life. He was so convincing, you know, always with the right words, always with the perfect explanation. I gripped the steering wheel, even though the car was off. One night, Emily showed up at my house, in the middle of the night, just like you right now, crying, destroyed. She told me everything, how he controlled her money, how he checked her phone, how he humiliated her in front of others, always disguised as a joke, how she was afraid of him. What did you do? I closed my eyes. Nothing. The silence that followed was suffocating. I told her to talk to him, to try to work things out. After all, he seemed like such a good guy. It had to be a misunderstanding, right? My voice was full of self-disgust. Emily went back to his house, and I went back to sleep thinking I'd helped. Michael, 3 months later, she was in the hospital. Broken arm, fractured ribs, bruises everywhere. She fell down the stairs, he said. It was an accident, he said. And you know what? Half the family believed him, because he was that convincing, because he cried in the hospital, because he looked so remorseful. I opened my eyes and looked straight at Sarah, but I didn't believe him, not this time. This time I did something. I helped Emily get out, paid for a lawyer, filed charges, gathered evidence, and him? He's still in prison today. Sarah had tears in her eyes again. Emily is fine now. She rebuilt her life, went back to school. She's happy. But you know what she told me once? Michael, I just wish you had listened to me the first time. My voice faltered. And she's right. If I had acted sooner, if I hadn't believed him, if I had trusted her. It wasn't your fault, Sarah said. Yes, it was, at least partly. And it will also be partly my fault if I let you get out of this taxi right now and pretend I didn't see anything, didn't hear anything. I turned fully toward her. Sarah, I'm not making the same mistake twice. I'm not letting a man like that walk free. Not again. She looked at me for a long moment. I saw something shift in her face, doubt giving way to determination. What do you want to do? Nothing illegal, I assured her. Nothing violent, but I want you to have justice. Real justice. And sometimes, justice starts with courage, with someone taking the first step. Sarah took a deep breath. Oak Street, 1847. The address left her lips in a whisper, but it was the bravest whisper I had ever heard. I turned the engine back on. Are you sure? She nodded. I am. I made a U-turn. The city slept around us. Empty streets, quiet houses, peaceful lives moving on. But we were awake, driven by something bigger than reason, something that refused to be ignored. Justice. Sometimes it doesn't come on its own. Sometimes you have to go get it, even if it's 3 a.m, even if your hands tremble on the wheel, even if you don't know exactly what you'll do when you get there. But you go anyway, because some things can't wait for sunrise. Oak Street was exactly the kind of place you'd expect. Big, well-kept houses with perfect lawns and imported cars in the driveways. The kind of neighborhood where nothing bad ever happens. Where everyone greets each other with polite smiles and nobody asks uncomfortable questions. Number 1847. I parked the taxi across the street under the shadow of a large tree, turned off the engine. The silence was immediate and absolute, broken only by the rain tapping softly against the hood. The house was beautiful. 2 stories, exposed brick, large windows, a porch with white columns, lights off, everything dark, peaceful, as if nothing wrong had ever happened there, as if the owner hadn't just destroyed a woman's life a few hours earlier. Sarah sat motionless in the back seat, staring at the house. "This would have been my house," she said, her voice hollow. "After the wedding, we were going to live here. He showed me the room that would be my office, the yard where we could have barbecues with family, the guest room that one day would be the baby's room." My chest tightened. "Sarah, I decorated every room in my mind," she continued as if in a trance. "Picked the wall colors, imagined where to put the bookshelf. I dreamed of the life we'd have here." She finally looked away. "And it was all a lie." I stayed quiet. "Sometimes there's nothing you can say that changes anything." "Are you still sure?" I asked. "We can leave right now. Call the police in the morning. Do things the proper way." Sarah looked at me. "Did you give up when your sister needed you?" "No." "Then I'm not giving up either." She opened the taxi door. I got out too. The rain had slowed to a fine mist, almost invisible. The air was cold, filled with the smell of wet asphalt and grass. We crossed the street together. The house looked even bigger up close. Imposing. Too perfect. The garden was flawless. Every shrub pruned with precision. There was even a garden gnome near the entrance. Surreal. "The front door will be locked," Sarah whispered. I nodded. "Obviously." We walked around the side of the house, stepping carefully on the wet grass. There was a window there, half hidden behind a bush, and it was cracked open. I looked at Sarah. "Are you absolutely sure? Because once we go in, there's no turning back." "He went into my mother's account without permission. He stole from her." Sarah's voice was steady. "I'm not here for revenge. I'm here to take back what's hers, what's mine." I understood. I pushed the window gently. It opened without a sound. I peered inside. It was dark, but it looked like a laundry room or pantry. "I'll go first," I said. I braced myself on the windowsill and pushed inside. Landed with a soft thud. I waited, heart racing, listening for any sign of movement in the house. Nothing. Absolute silence. I helped Sarah climb in. The wedding dress snagged on the sill for a second, but she yanked it hard, ripping the fabric even more. It didn't matter. The dress was ruined anyway. She stepped onto the cold floor barefoot. We were inside. We walked through the laundry room and reached the kitchen. Everything was clean, organized, dishes washed and put away, countertops shining. No trace of anything unusual happening that night. No sign that a wedding had been destroyed. No sign of guilt. "He's sleeping," Sarah whispered, pointing upward. "The bedroom is upstairs." We moved silently. The living room was elegant. Leather couch, huge TV, bookshelf full of books that were probably never read. Abstract paintings on the walls. Everything very sophisticated, very successful. Sarah walked through the rooms like a ghost, touching things lightly. A pillow, the corner of the coffee table, the back of a chair, as if she were saying goodbye to a life she never had, to a future stolen from her. "The office," she said suddenly, pointing to a half-open door. We entered. It was a masculine room. Dark wood desk, leather chair, computer turned off, shelves with folders organized by color. And there, right at the center of the desk, as if left in a hurry, an open folder. Sarah approached. I followed, turning on my phone's flashlight. Documents, dozens of them, bank statements, transfer receipts, contracts, all spread out, as if he had been reviewing something before going to bed. Sarah picked up one of the papers with trembling hands. "It's my mother's account." I leaned in to see better. Transfers, always high amounts. $5,000, $10,000. $8,000. All authorized with the power of attorney Sarah had given him. All going to an account under the name of a company I had never heard of, MGM Investments, LLC. He created a shell company, Sarah said, disbelief in her voice, to hide the money. There was more, much more. Spreadsheets detailing every transfer, dates, amounts, fake justifications, care home maintenance, medical expenses, special equipment, all lies, all carefully documented, all stolen. How much? I asked. Sarah flipped through the papers, her eyes scanning the numbers. $143,000. My stomach twisted. $143,000. Stolen from a woman with Alzheimer's, by a man who was supposed to protect her. Sarah covered her mouth with her hand, muffling a sob. My God, she sold the house where she raised her kids, where she lived for 50 years, all so she could have dignified care for the rest of her life. And he stole everything. She leaned on the desk, her legs nearly giving out. I held her arm. Sarah, photograph everything. Every document, every page, every number. She nodded, pulling her phone from inside the bra of her wedding dress. She started taking photos, one document after another. Click, click, click. The flash illuminating the dark office for a split second each time. I stood watch at the door, listening, waiting, praying he wouldn't wake up. Because if he woke up, I didn't know what I would do. And that uncertainty scared me more than I wanted to admit. Sarah was on the 12th photo when we heard it. A voice, coming from upstairs. My whole body froze. Sarah stopped mid-movement, her phone still pointed at the documents, her wide, terrified eyes finding mine in the dark. No, I'm telling you. It was for the best. His voice echoed from the upper floor, muffled but audible. He was on the phone. Imagine if I had actually married that lunatic. She'd be accusing me of God knows what by now. A laugh. He was laughing. My blood boiled. Hide, I whispered to Sarah, pointing to the built-in closet beside the bookshelf. She didn't hesitate. She crossed the office in 3 silent steps, opened the closet door, and slipped inside. I followed, closing the door behind us carefully. Total darkness. The space was tight. It smelled of varnished wood and cleaning products. I could feel Sarah's body trembling beside me, her wedding dress taking up almost all the available room. His voice grew louder. He was coming down the stairs. Of course I'm fine, man, Marcus continued, his tone casual, relaxed. Honestly, I'm relieved. That woman was getting way too nosy, starting to ask questions about her mom's finances. It was going to blow up sooner or later. My stomach twisted. Sarah covered her mouth with both hands. His footsteps echoed on the hardwood floor. He was getting closer, coming our way. Oh, the money is safe. Relax, he said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. All in the LLC account. She can't trace it. And even if she tried, it'll look like legitimate care home expenses. He entered the office, turned on the light. Through the slits of the closet door, I could see his silhouette. Tall, broad shoulders, wearing a robe. He walked over to the desk, still talking on the phone. Sarah was so close I could feel her heartbeat. Fast, hard, desperate. I held her hand in the dark, squeezed it. A silent promise, I won't let anything happen to you. No, don't worry about her mom, Marcus went on, flipping through papers on the desk. The old lady barely knows her own name. Advanced Alzheimer's. Perfect, actually. Nobody's gonna believe a word she says. Monstrous. This man was absolutely monstrous. Sarah was trembling so hard I feared he'd hear it. I held her hand tighter. Let me see. Marcus stopped talking, his attention shifting to something on the desk. Silence. A silence that lasted an eternity. My heart was beating so loud I was sure he could hear it. No, nothing, Marcos said again, but his voice had changed. Less casual, more alert. It's just, I'll call you back, okay? He hung up and stood still, looking around. I saw through the slit as he frowned. His eyes scanned the office slowly, as if he sensed something, as if he knew something was wrong. He took a step toward the closet. Sarah squeezed my hand so tightly it hurt. Another step. I held my breath. Sarah closed her eyes. Time stopped. I could hear him breathing on the other side of the door, so close, inches away. My mind raced through scenarios. If he opened the door, if he found us, what I would do. Push him, run, fight, protect Sarah. That was the only clear thought. Marcus stood there for 5 seconds that felt like 5 hours. Then he exhaled, stepped back. I'm getting paranoid, he muttered to himself. He picked something up from the desk, a pen maybe, and left the office. Turned off the light. His steps went up the stairs. A door closed upstairs. Silence. Sarah exhaled the breath she had been holding in a long, shaky gasp. She collapsed against me, her legs giving out. It's okay, I whispered, holding her. It's okay. He's gone. I thought he was going to find us, she said, voice breaking. I know, I did too. We stayed there a minute longer, waiting, making absolutely sure it was safe. Then I opened the closet door slowly. The office was dark again, empty, but the danger still lingered in the air like a ghost. Let's go, I whispered. Now, Sarah nodded. We crossed the office on tiptoe, every step deliberate, every movement calculated. We returned to the kitchen, to the laundry room, to the window. I climbed out first, turning to help Sarah. She gave me her hand. I pulled. The dress got stuck again, ripping a little more, but she managed to get through. We landed on the wet grass outside. And we ran. Across the yard, across the street, back to the taxi. I got in. Sarah followed. I locked the doors, started the engine, my heart still pounding, and I drove. Without looking back, without thinking, just driving. The empty streets of Portland blurred around us. Neon, wet pavement, swaying traffic lights. The world still there, indifferent to what had just happened. But we were no longer the same. I had seen his house, heard his voice, witnessed his coldness, his lack of remorse, his total disconnect from the harm he had caused. And Sarah. I looked in the rearview mirror. She sat in the back seat, hugging herself, the ruined wedding dress around her like the remnants of a shipwreck. But she wasn't crying. She was holding her phone, looking through the photos she had taken. Proof, evidence, justice, captured in pixels. Did you get everything? I asked. I got it, she said, her voice firm for the first time that night. Every page, every number, everything. Then we've got him. Sarah lifted her eyes to mine in the mirror, and for the first time since she stepped into my taxi, she smiled. A small, tired smile, but real. Yes, she said. We've got him. I kept driving through the night. But now, we weren't running anymore. We were heading toward something. Justice. Real justice. The police station on 13th Avenue was a dull gray building with flickering fluorescent lights behind dirty windows. I parked out front, engine still running, staring at that place that looked sadder at 4 a.m. than at any other time of day. Are you sure about this? I asked one last time. Sarah looked at the building, then at me. If I don't do this now, I'll never do it. She was right. Courage isn't something you set aside for later. It's now or never. I turned off the engine. I'm going with you. You don't need to? I know I don't need to, but I'm going. We got out of the taxi. The air was cold, the kind of damp cold that clings to your skin. The sky was beginning to lighten on the horizon, a dark blue, almost black shifting into a pale gray. Sarah was still in her wedding dress, torn, mud-stained, soaked, bare feet, dirty. The veil had somewhere been lost during the run from Marcus's house. She looked like a ghost bride, an apparition straight out of a horror movie. And in a way, that's exactly what she was. The ghost of a future that never happened. We climbed the steps to the police station. I pushed open the glass door. Inside, the air smelled of old coffee, paper, and disinfectant. There was a reception area with a tall counter protected by thick glass. A policewoman on duty sat behind it, typing on a computer, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. She looked up as we approached, and froze, staring at Sarah, at the dress, at her condition. "Oh my God," the officer said, standing up immediately. "Are you okay? Do you need medical assistance?" "No," Sarah answered, her voice steady. I need to report a crime. The officer blinked, confused. What kind of crime? Theft, financial fraud, and... Sarah hesitated. And unlawful imprisonment. Now the officer looked even more lost. Her eyes went from Sarah to me, as if trying to piece together the situation. All right, let's take this step by step. What's your name? Sarah Mitchell. The officer grabbed a clipboard and pen. And what happened, Sarah? Sarah took a deep breath. My ex-fiancé stole $143,000 from my mother. She has advanced Alzheimer's. He had power of attorney. He diverted the money to a shell account. And when I confronted him yesterday, during the wedding, he locked me in a bathroom for 3 hours. The officer stopped writing, looked at Sarah, then at me again. I saw the doubt on her face, the suspicion, the obvious thought. Is this just a lover's quarrel? Post-wedding drama? A runaway bride making up a story? Do you have proof of this? The officer asked, her tone cautious but skeptical. Sarah took out her phone. Yes. She opened her photo gallery, slid the phone under the glass. The officer took it, started scrolling through the images, bank statements, transfer receipts, detailed spreadsheets, shell company contracts, everything, clear, irrefutable. The officer's expression changed. Oh my God, she murmured. This is a lot. I know, Sarah said. The officer looked up. Wait here. I'll get the on-duty detective. She disappeared through a door in the back. Sarah turned to me. I think she believed me. She believed you, I confirmed. No one invents a story like this with evidence that solid. We waited. A few plastic chairs lined the wall. Sarah sat down, exhausted. I stood beside her. 5 minutes later, the officer returned with a man around 50, gray hair, wrinkled shirt. He had the look of someone who'd seen too much in life to be easily surprised. But when he saw Sarah, he was surprised. Jesus, he said. Are you all right? I am now, Sarah answered. I'm Detective Harris. Can we talk inside? Sarah nodded, started to get up. I held her arm. I'll be here, as long as it takes. She squeezed my hand. Thank you, Michael. Then she left. Followed the detective through the door. Disappeared into the hallways of the station. I stepped outside. Lit a cigarette. I hadn't smoked in 3 years. I quit after Emily left the hospital. After I realized I needed to be fully present, not numbing myself with anything. But that night, this morning, I needed one. I leaned against the taxi's hood, watching the sky slowly brighten. Portland waking up. A few cars starting to pass. A garbage truck roaring in the distance. The world moving on, indifferent. But something had changed. I had changed. I smoked the cigarette to the end, dropped it on the ground, crushed it under my shoe, and waited. 2 hours. That's how long it took. When Sarah finally came out of the station, the sun was high. The morning light lit up her tired face, but something was different now. Relief. She walked toward me slowly, as if each step still hurt. But she was smiling. They believed me, she said, her voice rough from hours of talking. They're going to investigate. They already issued a search and seizure warrant for his house. They're arresting him today. I felt something loosen in my chest. Sarah. She hugged me, tight, desperate, as if holding on to me was the only thing keeping her from falling apart. Thank you, she whispered into my shoulder. Thank you for believing me, for helping me, for not letting me give up. I held her. You would have done the same. Sarah pulled back, looking into my eyes. No, not everyone would have done what you did tonight. But I knew the truth. I didn't do it only for her. I did it for Emily, for the chance I didn't give her the first time, for the guilt I still carried, for the need to prove to myself that I could do better, that I could be better. Come on, I said. Let me take you home. Sarah nodded. We walked back to the taxi. She got into the back seat one last time. I started the engine and drove. Not to any specific place yet. Just drove. With the sun rising over Portland, and with the certainty that sometimes a simple taxi ride can change everything. Forever. I drove in silence for a few minutes with no destination in mind. Sarah was quiet in the back seat, staring out the window as the city woke up around us. Bakeries opening, Newsstands setting up their papers, the world slipping back into its normal rhythm. Where to now? I asked, looking at her in the rear-view mirror. Sarah thought for a moment. Then something shifted in her expression. Can you take me to the pier? I wasn't expecting that. The pier? Yes, the Willamette Pier. I just need air, space, water. I understood. Sometimes, after everything collapses, you need an open place. Somewhere the world feels bigger than your problems. I turned the taxi toward the river. Traffic was starting to pick up, but it was still light. It took about 15 minutes to reach the docks. I parked near the wooden walkway that stretched over the Willamette River. The water was calm, reflecting the first golden lights of dawn. The sky had that impossible mix of colors, pink, orange, blue, that only exists at that hour. A few seagulls glided above the surface. The air smelled like river, wet wood, and new beginnings. Sarah got out of the taxi. I did too. She walked to the edge of the pier, her wedding dress dragging behind her. She stopped at the very tip, staring at the horizon. The wind tousled what remained of her once elaborate hairstyle. She closed her eyes and breathed deeply. For the first time in hours, she looked at peace. I approached quietly, standing beside her. I didn't say anything, just stayed there. Sometimes silent presence speaks louder than words. My mom used to bring me here when I was a kid, Sarah said suddenly, still looking at the river. We'd come on Sundays, buy bread from the corner bakery and sit right there. She pointed to a wooden bench a few feet behind us. She'd tell me stories about her life, about how she met my dad, about the dreams she had. I listened. She was amazing, you know. Strong, independent, brilliant. She worked her whole life as a nurse, took care of dozens, hundreds of people, saved lives. And now, Sarah's voice cracked. Now she doesn't even know who I am most days. She wiped away a tear. Alzheimer's stole everything, every memory, every piece of her. And I keep wondering, does she remember those Sundays here? Does she still know she had a daughter? That she was loved? She knows, I said firmly. Sarah looked at me. How can you be sure? Because love doesn't live only in memory. It lives in the body, in the soul. Even when the mind forgets, the heart remembers. She took my hand, squeezed it. Thank you for saying that. We stood there for a few more minutes, watching the river flow, constant, unstoppable, like time. And what about you, Michael? Sarah asked, turning toward me. Why do you drive a taxi in the middle of the night? I let out a humorless laugh. Because I can't sleep. Why not? I took a deep breath. It was never easy to talk about this. But after everything we'd been through that night, after everything we had shared, she deserved the full truth. I told you about my sister, Emily, about what happened to her. Sarah nodded. But I didn't tell you everything. I didn't tell you how I failed her. My voice grew heavier. When she came to me the first time asking for help, I was busy, working at an office, making good money, living my perfect little life. And she showed up, crying, telling me she was scared of him, that he was changing, that she needed to get out of that relationship. I paused, staring at the water, and I told her she was exaggerating, that every relationship has problems, that she should try to fix things before giving up. My throat tightened. 3 months later, she was in the hospital. Broken arm, fractured ribs, a bruise so big on her face she was unrecognizable. Sarah covered her mouth. Michael, I've never forgiven myself, never. After I helped her leave, after he was arrested, I thought things would get better, but they didn't. I carry that guilt every day. I looked at her. That's why I drive at night, because I can't close my eyes without seeing her face in that hospital room, without wondering what would have happened if I had believed her from the start. Sarah held my face in both hands. You saved her? Too late. No, she insisted. You saved her. And tonight you saved me. You didn't let me make the mistake of staying quiet, of accepting things, of letting it go. You gave me courage when I had none left. My own tears threatened to fall. I just didn't want to fail again. And you didn't. Sarah hugged me. You didn't fail, Michael. We stayed there, embraced at the edge of the pier as the sun rose fully into the sky. Two wounded souls. Two strangers who met on an impossible night and became something else. Not friends, not family, but something unique. Something that only exists when two people walk through hell together and come out the other side still standing. You know what's funny? Sarah said, pulling back and smiling through tears. I was supposed to get married today. To promise to love someone forever. To wear white. To say, I do. And in the end, she looked down at her ruined dress. In the end, the person who truly stood by my side was a taxi driver I had never met before tonight. Sometimes the right people show up at the wrong moments, I said. Or at the right ones, she corrected. And maybe she was right. Maybe none of this was an accident. Maybe I had to be there, at that gas station, at that exact moment for Sarah to get into my taxi. Maybe she needed me just as much as I needed her, to prove that I could do better, that I could be better. Come on, I said. Let me take you home for real this time. Sarah nodded. We walked back to the taxi side by side. The sun shone over Portland, and for the first time in 3 years, I felt like maybe, just maybe I could sleep tonight. Sarah's mother lived in a quiet neighborhood on Portland's east side. Tree-lined streets, small but well-kept houses, gardens full of flowers. The kind of place where neighbors wave to each other and kids play on the sidewalk. I parked in front of the address she gave me. A yellow house with a white porch, hanging flower pots, a rocking chair, and an elderly woman sitting there, staring at the street with eyes that were empty yet peaceful. Her mother. That's her, Sarah said softly, looking out the window. I turned off the engine. Silence returned, but this time it wasn't heavy. It wasn't suffocating. It was final. Sarah didn't move at first. She just sat there, looking at her mother, gathering strength for what came next, for rebuilding, for moving forward, for taking care of what truly mattered. Michael, she said, turning to me. Yeah? I don't know how to thank you. For what you did. For everything. You don't need to thank me. I do. She met my eyes. You could have just dropped me anywhere. You could have called the police and driven off. You could have done the bare minimum. But you went beyond that. Way beyond. I shook my head. I did what was right. No. You did something extraordinary. And that's different. Before getting out, Sarah looked at the seat beside her. The veil. That piece of white fabric meant for the happiest day of her life. Now just a symbol of a lie. Of a stolen future. She picked it up and left it on the back seat. I won't be needing that anymore, she said, smiling for only the second time since she got into my taxi. I smiled back. No, you won't. Sarah opened the door, but before stepping out, she looked at me again. How much do I owe you? For the ride? Nothing. Michael. Sarah, I'm not charging you. But you stayed with me the whole night. You missed other rides. You need... This wasn't a ride, I interrupted, firm but gentle. It was something else. She stayed quiet for a moment, then nodded, understanding. All right, but... She searched inside the small bag still hanging from her shoulder, found a pen and a crumpled receipt, wrote something quickly. Here. She handed me the paper, a phone number. If you ever need someone to talk to for anything, call me. No matter the time, no matter the reason, I'll answer. I took the paper, folded it carefully, put it in the pocket of my shirt, right next to my heart. Thank you, Sarah. No, thank you, Michael. She stepped out of the taxi, stood on the sidewalk for a second, looking at the house, then took a deep breath and walked toward the porch. Her mother lifted her eyes as Sarah climbed the steps. There was confusion on the woman's face. She didn't recognize her daughter immediately, but when Sarah knelt in front of her, held her hands and said something I couldn't hear, her mother smiled. A small, distant smile, but real, and she hugged her daughter. Sarah collapsed into her arms, crying, not from pain, not from anger, but from relief, from exhaustion, from a love that survives even when memory doesn't. I turned on the engine. It was time to go. I drove back home through a Portland that was now fully awake. Heavy traffic, people heading to work, busy cafes, life happening as it always does. but I wasn't the same. I got to my apartment at 8:30 in the morning. A small, messy studio with stacks of books I never finished, and a bed I rarely used. I showered, laid down, and for the first time in 3 years, I slept. 3 weeks later, my phone rang. I was in the taxi waiting for a ride near the airport. I picked up without checking the number. Hello? Michael? The voice was familiar. It's Sarah. My heart sped up. Sarah, hey, are you okay? I'm good. Better than good, actually. I needed to call you to tell you something. Tell me what? They arrested him. Marcus. This morning. A wave of relief hit me. That's great. Thank God. But there's more, Sarah continued, her voice full of an emotion I couldn't quite place. Not sadness, something like hope. The police did a full investigation, and they discovered he wasn't working alone. What do you mean? There was an entire network, Michael, an organization. Marcus was just one piece. They had dozens of people working together, exploiting vulnerable seniors, nursing homes, hospitals, fake powers of attorney. Everything highly organized. My stomach twisted. Oh my God. When they arrested Marcus, he made a deal. He gave everyone up. And this morning the police arrested 17 more people involved in the scheme. 17. Sarah, it's huge. And you know what else? They tracked the money. Millions of dollars. Stolen from more than 80 families. 80, Michael. Her voice cracked, this time with emotion, not pain. They're giving it all back. Every penny. My mother will get her money returned. And all those other families, too. I couldn't speak. Do you understand what this means? Sarah went on. If you hadn't helped me that night, if you had just driven me home and left, if I hadn't had the courage to go to the police, none of this would have come out. Those people would still be getting robbed, and I would have given up. You wouldn't have given up, I finally managed. Yes, I would have. I was ready to give up, but you didn't let me. You believed me when no one else would have. She paused. You saved more than just me that night, Michael. You saved dozens of families. Tears burned my eyes. No, you saved them. You had the courage to act. We saved them, Sarah whispered gently. Together, we were silent for a moment. How's your mother? I asked. She's good, better. With the money back, I was able to move her to an even better care home. She's happy, at least in the moments when she knows where she is. Sarah let out a soft, wet laugh. And I'm okay too. Starting over. Slowly, but starting. I'm happy to hear that. And you, Michael, how are you? I looked at the rearview mirror, saw my own reflection. Tired, older, but at peace. I'm good, I said. And it was true. I'm really good. I'm glad. You deserve to be. We talked a few more minutes, then said goodbye. She promised to call again. I promised to answer. I hung up. Sat there in the airport lot, watching planes take off in the distance. Sometimes one ride changes everything. Sometimes doing the right thing in the middle of the night can bring light to so many people. I got into that taxi 7 years ago carrying a guilt that was eating me alive. A failure that haunted me. A sister I didn't protect when I should have. But on that night of March 15th at 2:37 a.m., when a shattered bride stepped into my cab, everything changed. I didn't bring Emily back. I didn't erase the past. But I gave Sarah, and dozens of people I'll never meet, a chance at justice. And maybe that's enough. Maybe it's the beginning of forgiveness. Not forgiveness from others, but forgiveness from myself. I turned on the engine. The city was alive around me. Portland moving, breathing, people living, loving, fighting, surviving. And I was part of it. No longer a ghost driving through the night, but a man. Alive, present, at peace. I pressed the accelerator and drove toward the future for the first time in years without looking back.